Support for this podcast is brought to you by the Wyoming Humanities. We take a closer look at our human experiences and use stories to explore culture, history, and contemporary issues. You can find us on thinkwhy.org.
Based on my experiences, how I wanted other kids to feel, I wanted them to be more confident, feel better about themselves, learn about differences.
Hello, I'm Emmy DeGrappa. This is What's Your Why? Each week we bring you stories asking our guests the question why. We learn about their passion, why they do what they do, why should we care, and what can we learn? What better place to explore the human landscape than from the state known for its incredible landscapes, Wyoming? And what better organization than Wyoming Humanities? Serving our state for over 45 years, we share stories, ideas, and wisdom about the human experience. Welcome to What's Your Why? Today we are talking to Todd Parr. He is the author and illustrator of more than 40 books for children, including the New York Times bestselling The I Love You book, The Earth book, and The Thankful book. His books are available in over 15 languages throughout the world. He is also the co-creator of the popular children's television show ToddWorld, as well as short films for Sesame Street. Welcome, Todd.
Thank you. Good to be here.
You've been busy.
I have. When they asked if I'd come back to Jackson, I said instantly, yes, I will be here. So it's been fun.
How does a young man from Rock Springs go from Wyoming to California? What was your journey there?
Via United Airlines. So I wanted out of Rock Springs. I loved it, but I knew there was so much more in the world out there for me. I ended up with a job with United Airlines as a flight attendant. And from there it was Chicago. From there it was Honolulu. And then San Francisco is where I ended up. And that was 15 years of my journey, and I had always remembered how much I loved to paint and draw. I kept coming back to that. I knew that this is really what I wanted to do with my life. I had more confidence than I did when I was in school, so I wasn't going to take no for an answer or any rejection. I just set out to put my artwork all over everything I could think about, and it's always kind of come with a message to the actual art. And someone said, you should think about writing children's books. And that launched me into the books and where I'm at now and why I'm here today.
When someone said you should write children's books, what did they see in you that would be that distinction?
Well, I think they saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. I think they were attracted to my artwork. The person that actually suggested it was an editor for my current publisher. This was 20 years ago. She saw a lot of my original artwork, product that I had done, greeting cards, and she's the one that said, you really kind of already are telling a story with your art. You really should think about it. And as I thought about it, why didn't I think about doing books of all the stuff that I was doing? And I've come to figure out over the years is that I was afraid of books because I had difficulties reading when I was younger, and I had to repeat second grade because of it. With dyslexia, being a visual learner, these things weren't really recognized. I was just considered slow, so I had to repeat second grade. And that probably was the obstacle that said, you can't write books. You had to repeat second grade. You had trouble reading. You didn't do that well in school. And when she said it, I'm like, well, why not? Why, okay, if she thinks I can. And there were little guidelines, and I had no idea what I was doing. But fortunately, I was able to just speak from the heart based on my experiences, how I wanted other kids to feel. I wanted them to be more confident, feel better about themselves, learn about differences, be kind, just basic things. And I could do it in a simple, fun way. So I'm really lucky that someone made that suggestion.
And I think it's wonderful that your books all focus around positive messages. And when you talk to children, what are some of the main takeaways that you take to maybe go forward and write more books, or you see maybe where there's a need in a child's life that you see consistently over and over again?
I think when I first started doing these and my books came out 20 years ago, it was this simple message that really wasn't out there. I didn't know that. I was just, again, speaking from the heart. And there were so many people that were gravitating towards these books. And they were like, well, they're not stories. They're not pastels. They're these bright colors. It looks like a 6-year-old did them. But this message is really like fits my family, or it helps my child who's dealing with this. And I learned a lot from my initial books of how much people were using them for so many things that I didn't even think about. And I just continued to do that. I think it's the basic things, the things that I didn't have. It was confidence, believing in yourself. I grew up a worrier. There were just so many things I struggled with that I try and think about how can I put those into books, these complicated messages in a simple, fun, silly way. Because in order to engage kids, I think you need to bring them into the process. You don't want to talk down to them. You want to add humor in there. And fortunately, that's just what I have in me, and it's made these work. And now in this day and age, and there's so much more going on in the world, kids are hearing things at younger ages, the news, their parents talking, there's so much, like conflicts and things, and they go to school and they hear things. And I think, more and more parents are looking for ways to talk to kids about some of these complicated things in life, like differences, like all of the turmoil. It's just helping them worry less, be more confident, do more to help others. And that's the driving force behind what I do in every book now.
You said that when you were growing up, you were dyslexic and there wasn't any help for you and they didn't recognize that. And so that made you very unconfident. And I think that happens to a lot of kids. And now we have ADD and ADHD. Would you say you fit more in that category? How does the school system today answer some of those issues that children deal with?
Well, I think they address them nowadays. I was just put in a slow class. Oh, he's a slow reader. He goes into slow reading. I was in slow math, slow English. I was just a slow reader. I think my grandmother recognized that I was a visual learner because as we read Go, Dog, Go every single night I was with her, which was a lot. She wouldn't just read the book. We would stop and she would ask me, what do I like about this page? What's my favorite color? So she really made me a part of the process. I just think it's so important to get kids to read, to give them the confidence that they need to be better human beings.
Is your grandmother still alive?
No, she passed away last February. Oh. She was 92.
It sounds like she was a real inspiration in your life.
She was. We had a lot of problems growing up. My mom died when I was at a young age. My grandma was there to really raise, my sister. And we were very close. She was a good friend, and I do think she's responsible for a lot of what I have in me today.
Oh, that's good. I'm glad to hear that. That's another thing that I think can be an issue today, is that we focus so much on youth and not on our seniors. I think it's great to hear you appreciate her.
It is, and I try and, tell people, it's like, call your grandma, call your mom. If you're thinking about them, call them, because once you start losing these people that you're very close to, you don't want to live with regrets that I wished I had done this. And I've always tried to focus my life, once I got myself together, was I want to live life. You're here to live. You're not here to survive. And that I don't want any regrets. And that if I'm thinking about my grandma, I want to let her know that I'm thinking about her and I want to thank her. And I've thanked her, my dad, countless times for everything that they've done for me. Mm-hmm. And I still have regrets because I think maybe I didn't thank them enough.
Well, that's true too, but life can't be lived backwards.
No,
so.
And it isn't.
Do you actually eat macaroni and cheese in the bathtub? I just want to know.
No, that's not that's from the book, It's Okay to Be Different. When I was writing that book, I was thinking, Todd, this book's getting too serious. What can you put in here that no one would expect? So I put in that page, It's Okay to Eat Macaroni and Cheese in the Bathtub. It caught on. Kids everywhere wanted to do it. Moms and dads were very upset with me. But it did exactly what I needed it to do in that book. And that book today is still one of my best-selling books. 18 years later. And that book best describes what I try and do in all my books, and that is help kids feel good about who they are, remind them to be kind, be more confident, and learn about differences. And I'm proud of that book, and I'm proud that that is the page. But that is the question, do you do that? And no, I don't.
But I also want to know, what was your first book? Because how did you develop your voice in all these books?
There were 4 small books that came out at once. They were square, like the greeting cards that I had been doing. The titles were The OK Book, This Is My Hair, Do's and Don'ts, and Things That Make You Feel Good. And from those were a stepping point for me to learn from those. And then that's how I got to nearly 50 books in 20 years, is by doing some years 4 and then 2. And as I got to the bigger books in all different formats, I'm basically 1 to 2 books a year. It's Okay to Be Different probably was the confidence booster for me to say, I've never heard of this guy. What does he write about? It's Okay to Be Different was the book that best described me. And from that, I learned how the reach of that book, how many people were using that book in ways that I had no idea existed. And when that book first came out back in the day of Borders, that was in the self-help section of the bookstore. And I'm like, it's a picture book. You shouldn't have to go to a self-help section. That book is exactly why you don't want to have to go to the self-help section, is that you want kids to feel like, I may be different. I may have been held back in 2nd grade. I may have a disability, but why do I have to go to a section to read about that when I want to just feel like everyone else? So I think for me, it's been a lot of learning. And I think nowadays I was ahead of myself when I started doing this. And unfortunately, things have gotten more difficult and harder for children. And more people are looking about, how do we talk to them? How do we address this? So I've been doing this for 20 years. People are now going, I'm ready to address some of these things that I said, oh, my child doesn't deal with this. We don't have these issues, or they don't need to know about peace or the earth or, anything. And, but again, no one wants to be talked down to or bored with something. So I think if you're going to deliver this message, you've got to have the simple art style and humor.
And you still do all your own artwork for all the books?
I do.
That's incredible. And it's been a great pleasure talking to you.
Oh,
thank you so much.
It's so great.
Thank you for listening. I'm Emmy DeGrappa. This Think Why podcast is brought to you by the Wyoming Humanities. We use the humanities as a lens to explore the human experience. You can find us online at thinkwhy.org.